Hi guys, I'm just going to have a quick look at this new tumbler that I've got, which is a vibratory tumbler rather than a rotary tumbler. This one vibrates so things gently move. This particular one I purchased from Amazon. It were 80 quid, it goes up and down by about a fiver either side, and it came from China within about 10 days. No damage other than the button on top was smashed, which the vendor has offered to send me a replacement or 7 quid off the price, in which case I can just buy one off eBay. So that's what I'm going to do, so that's not an issue. The build quality of this seems pretty good. I mean, it's, you know, it's not thin cheap metal. As you can hear, it's quite solid. There's 4 springs on it. You've got a motor in the centre which has got an offset weight on the bottom. The weight spins, and because it's offset it vibrates. There are no specifications on this whatsoever. I couldn't find any reference to wattage, you know, how many watts it uses, what kind of a wattage of motor it is or anything like that. All I've got is it's 240 volts, which has got a plug on it. And that's it. There is no up and down functions, it's just on. And you're going to ask me, well, what's it for? Well, the thing is, when you're tumbling rocks, and a lot of people use these for rocks, but equally a lot of people use them for machine parts, car parts and stuff like that, bolts and things. And you can use these for cleaning them, and they use walnut husks and all sorts of fascinating bits and pieces that you can put in here. You can buy burrs that'll do it, little triangles and stuff. And you put your screws, bolts, nuts and things like that, and it will just eradicate all the rust and corrosion and stuff like that off it. So they use them for all sorts of stuff. They also use them for cleaning bullet shells, you know, for reuse kind of thing. So they're useful for all sorts of things. But for me, I'm using it for its polishing ability. And the reason being is, if we get, as an example, if we get these rocks, I mean these are large ones obviously, but in my tumbler they're much smaller than this, but the principle's the same. We've gone through they started off square and angular, like this, like what typical rough rocks. And then over a period of so far about a month, we've rounded them down. We've basically turned rough rocks into pebbles, right? And we've got rid of all the cracks and sharp edges and stuff like that. And then we move it onto a finer grid. So we've gone from 80 to, well, I currently am on 400 because I ain't got a 220 in, but we're on 400 grid. So we go all the way through that process, smoothing it out and smoothing it out and smoothing it out. And then the very last part is polishing it, well, polishing and burnishing. Now at that stage you've already taken perhaps weeks or months to get the stones as smooth as possible, but in the polishing stage they're still banging together, right? So you can get bruising all around the edge of the stones where they're banging on each other. Now a way to get around that is to include plastic pellets, filler material in the polishing stage, so that there's some cushion in between them. You know, so if they clank together and there's a plastic pellet in there, they can't actually touch. But, you know, unless you've got millions and millions and millions of them, they're still going to eventually touch. Some of them are. But there's another way of doing it, and that's this. That's where this comes in. This is a much faster process than that. But I'm only going to be using this for polish only, because I don't want to contaminate it with other grits. So that's one way. You can, if you want, just buy a replacement plastic bit, the blue bowl, so you can have one for coarse, one for medium, one for fine, or whatever. So you can buy spares of this and have them for different users. But it's a lot of money, so I'm going to just use the one and use them for rough bits and this for polishing. So what we're going to use in there for polishing is the ceramic chips. Actually the porcelain. You've already seen these, I've shown them to you before. And they're basically angled pellets. These ones are about 4mm by 3mm, and they're angled on each end. Now I don't know how many this actually takes, but it's a 12-inch one of these. I don't know if it's any good, this machine. Only time's going to tell. Like I said, it were 80 quid, and normally they're a lot more money than that. Look, you're looking at 300, 400, 500 quid. So this was considerably cheaper. So it may very well have just been made out of tissue paper and spit. Don't really know, but so far the build quality looks champion. It does what it says it's going to do, and I'll show you that in a sec. This lid comes off. Like I say, it did have a plastic button on top which broke, but fortunately I've still got the brass thing so we can still shut it. So you just literally take the nut off the top, followed by a washer, and then you can remove the lid itself. The lid is padded with like a sponge material, which I don't imagine is going to last a very long time once it gets wet. So I'm not expecting that to last. But it's not an issue anyway. I don't even, to be honest, really know why that's there, because it's not going to be throwing stuff up. So no problem. Not a problem with that. And that is the bowl itself. It's quite a big bowl. And what you do is that you unscrew this nut and this ball will then lift up and you replace it, but we'll be nice and firmly down. I'm going to turn it on just so that you can see what happens. Rock a switch. So that's now running. It's not too loud so far, is it? If you touch it you can feel it vibrating. And that's because that counterweight at the bottom is off centre. So it's spinning, but it's going like this. Do you like that? Right, so I've got 4 kilos of chips here, which were quite expensive really, considering what they are. 60 quid's worth here, for 4 kilos. So it is expensive stuff. It's 15 quid a kilo, so that's like 8 quid a pound nearly. It's nearly the same price as fillet steak. Like I say, in America it's much cheaper. Now the thing with this is it's brand new. So being ceramic, and porcelain in particular, it's very hard. So any little burrs and bits that stuck on this, where it's been sort of baked in kiln, it can actually scratch your rocks that you've just spent weeks and weeks getting nice and smooth. So what we've got to do, we've actually got to season, if you like, these new porcelain bits. And what we're going to do with that is put them in here with a bit of water, and I'm going to use some aluminium oxide, right? Because I'm only going to use these, like I said, in the polishing stage. So these will never be used in anything else. So the only thing that's going in there is polished grade stuff. So I'm currently going to be putting aluminium oxide in there, which is polished grade. So that's it. And then I'm just going to let it run for a couple of days. And all it will do is it will basically smooth off the outer edges. So all these little tiny sharp pointy bits will get burnished off. And then we can rinse it. And then it should be good to go. It should polish anything, because then what will happen is, instead of the rocks tumbling like this and hitting each other, they go like this and vibrate against each other. So I'm going to put these in and then I'm going to switch it on, and then we'll see what happens to the actual bits that's inside. Famous last words. Right, so that's 4 kilos of that's gone in there. I'll lift the camera up so that you can see what's going on inside. Just pull it over here a bit. And then lift it up. Like that. Angle it a bit. Like that. There you go. Right, so you can see what's going on in there, look. So let's just turn it on. I don't know if that's actually full enough, but you see how they're moving? That's what it's intended to do. What it's actually doing is it's vibrating them little bits of porcelain, and they are rubbing against each other, but if there were stones in there, they'd also be rubbing against the stones, carrying that polish with them. So I'm going to chuck these other bits in as well. These are different size, don't really make any difference. Like so, give it a quick flick. Now for my liking, that seems to have enough stuff in there to be functioning as it's supposed to be functioning. So I'm going to add a little bit of water. Turn it on, and then I'm going to just sprinkle some aluminium oxide in there. how it's speeded up that process. Probably a couple of 3 tablespoons. These are only teaspoons like. Because I don't want it to give it a good go. Now this machine uses a lot less grit than a traditional one. But since this is only polished and I really want to get them clean, put plenty in. So that's how that works. I'm going to sit back down here so you can see me. So as you can see, come down there, as you can see, it seems to be working. The quality of it seems to be absolutely spot on. I can't fault it. I've certainly seen a lot of these that's been a lot more money that feel a lot cheaper than this. I think I've dropped on a bargain, touch wood. But usually bargains tend to backfire a little bit, don't they? So we'll only find out soon. So now what I'm going to do is put this lid back on. Now that we've got all the stuff turning nicely, we can put that back on, put the washer back on, and put this little nut back on, and we can fire it up. Now I'm not going to do it because it'll just reverberate over me, you won't be able to hear me. So that's about it really. I can't really show you much else other than that's it really. I've shown you the media that we're using is the ceramic media, and we're actually polishing the surface of that ceramic media, not to make it shiny but to make it smooth in case there's any burrs or little bits of material stuck to it, because they would scratch the rocks. So I'm going to let this run for a couple of days, 24/7, and then I'll just basically wash the bowl out and all the media that's in there, have an inspection of it, and if I can see that it's nice and rounded, which I suspect it will be in a couple of days, then this is then ready to be used for the next stage of the polishing. Now over there I've just set off the rocks that we've had on for 4 weeks on rough, on coarse grit, 80 grit. They're still running, so we've got another week to run at least. That will make it 5 weeks. And some of the rocks that were out of that batch which are ready for the next stage, I've now put them into their own barrel as well, so we've got them running. So that's the 400 grit. So they'll run for at least another couple of weeks, and then we'll move them on to finer grit and etc, etc. But yeah, absolutely lovely. But I'm liking this. You know, for the money it will cost, I think it's really good. It does cost a lot of money to invest into it, which is the machine itself, but more importantly the media. But bear in mind that the media is something that you're only going to be buying once. You know, you're going to have a lot of service out of that media. It's not like you use it and then throw it away. You just reuse it over and over. But don't mix the media into different grits, because then what can happen is you'll get some of the old grit that you've used, or old media, put it into here to polish, and you'll get 80 grit in it and it'll scratch all your rocks and stuff, so it's not going to work. So keep the polish separately. That's why I've got a separate machine just for polish, and I've got them ceramic ones just for polish. So that's about it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This video folks. Give it a thumbs up, give it a share, whatever. Subscribe to the channel, and keep abreast of what we're up to over at the juice cabin, or as we call it in the kitchen, the rock. We call it the rock shop, but it's not really a shop. Yeah, can't wait to get cracking with that. So anyway, that were a quick video, so I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, you take care. See you later.